Let's be clear from the outset. Fracking in Britain is not a technical curiosity. It's a political litmus test that reveals a party's appetite for risk, its relationship with evidence, and its sensitivity to local consent. In Lancashire this week, we saw that test in real time. The Reform-led County Council refused a motion urging a permanent fracking ban. Instead, they softened the language to a pledge to keep the moratorium, to commission a review of domestic energy sources and swap the word fracking for the more anodyne extracting shale gas. The stated rationale was prudence in case technology changes. The effect was ambiguity where residents wanted certainty. Why does this matter? Because Lancashire is not an abstract case. It's the place where the UK's most powerful fracking-induced earthquake occurred, a 2.9 ml event on the 29th of August in 2019 near the Preston New Road site after more than 200 smaller tremors that had already undermined public trust. The British Geological Survey records this plainly. That sequence drove the 2019 moratorium. The ground literally moved beneath the voters' feet. National politics has responded. On the 1st of October, the Energy Secretary Ed Miliband said the government was planning to legislate for a permanent ban as part of the North Sea Transition Plan. And the point is not only climate, it's also constitutional. A statutory ban raises the political cost of any future repeal, especially for MPs sitting over shale belts. Miliband's message was unambiguous: send the frackers packing. Reform UK argues that this is theatrical and that we are leaving energy treasure underground. Yet their local leaders in Lancashire and Scarborough have already diverged from the national line when confronted with the practicalities. Scarborough's reform-run town council unanimously opposed an appraisal well using a propant squeeze technique that operators insist is not fracking, but which residents experience as fracking by another name. So that appraisal well would be sunk. That appraisal well has been sunk. It's not going to happen. The politics is brutal. National slogans may be peddled by Farage, but when they meet parish realities, they are ditched. They are dumped. Public opinion is not with a fracking revival. Consistent YouGov series show roughly half the public opposed and only a quarter supportive, with reform-curious voters in the very northern seats that Reform covets and plans to win, most likely to resist new local sites. That's why fracking splits the party's electoral coalition, even as it animates the base. There are two further points that should guide this debate. Firstly, geology and economics. UK shales are smaller in volume, more fragmented and harder to exploit than the sort of things that you get in the USA. British geological surveys have noted the challenges, and independent analyses have repeatedly questioned whether UK fracking can ever deliver significant volumes at competitive cost, let alone lower bills. And that is before you price the issues of policing, road disruption and methane leakage. Second, the capability and the credibility of all this. The Global Witness review of companies holding UK onshore blocks found that 22 out of 24 produced almost no oil or gas globally in 2024. So the idea that they could have powered the UK is is frankly ridiculous. And then you come back to this slogan from the US, the drill baby drill, so beloved of Mr. Trump. You can't simply transport something from where it's worked in the US and then say, oh, it will work automatically in the UK, because it won't. What works over there doesn't necessarily work over here. Quadrilla's operations at Preston New Road produced an earthquake that residents felt across the area. The British Geological Survey confirmed it. The government responded, and this is why Lancashire keeps saying no. Lancashire is not the Permian Basin. The Boland Shale is fragmented and faulted, which is why predicting seismic activity is hard and why the precautionary red light remains scientifically justified. Studies and official summaries after 2019 concluded that forecasting both the probability and the upper bound of events linked to hydraulic fracturing is not yet robust. That is a geology problem first and a politics problem second. Reform's leadership talks in absolutes about energy treasure under our feet, while several reform-run councils in places that could host wells have taken the opposite line. Scarborough, the reform-led town, voted unanimously against the propant squeeze near Burniston. Lancashire reform figures say that their area is not conducive to fracking. As for the drill baby drill, what it really was, well, the slogan is not British. It's an American chant born out of a 2008 Republican National Convention when Michelle Steele riffed on energy independence. Sarah Palin amplified it and later Donald Trump revived it rhetorically, often detached from the actual US production facts on the ground. It is marketing genius, not mineral survey. In Britain, adopting the same phrase without the same basins is performance without the props. And two other realities should guide this policy. First, the UK's long-run bill stability is most sensitive to how quickly we reduce gas exposure in power generation. That's where Ed Miliband's legislative push sits alongside a built-out agenda for wind and solar. Whatever your party badge, the bills question is increasingly a question of infrastructure costs, system balancing, grid investment, not a short-term domestic gas fit. Secondly, every year the comparative case for renewables strengthens. The price, the speed of deployment, the insulation from global gas shocks, all the way point to the same issues. The fracking narrative still trades on the romance of self-reliance. The grid narrative is a duller story about cables, interconnectors, storage and planning reform. The dull story saves more money. It's such a shame that we jettisoned those large places where we could store oil, gas, and so on. If reform wants to look serious in counties like Lancashire, it could pivot from wells to wires. It could champion a national programme of grid upgrades, local energy markets, planning fast tracks for rooftop solar plus storage. If it insists on hydrocarbons, focus on methane leakage reduction in the existing system and life extension safety in the North Sea, not the most faulted shale in Britain. None of that produces a chant. All of it produces resilience. And locally, the choice is not whether to welcome earthquakes. No one is proposing that. The choice is whether to keep communities in a state of suspended animation on a promise that a new tool will make old rocks behave. That is not prudence, that is procrastination. The Council's amendment to replace fracking with extracting shale gas is a dictionary trick that doesn't change the plate tectonics beneath Lytham or Kirkham. Drill baby drill works because it is short, punchy and promises agency. It flatters the voter with a lever that they can pull tomorrow. But Lancashire already pulled its lever in 2019 and the ground pulled back. A mature energy politics should be willing to retire a good slogan when the geology says no. So here is the honest position. In Britain, the fracking question has been answered by the rock and by the regulator. Lancashire is the case study. Reform can rename it, reframe it, relocate it, but the science has not moved since 2019 and neither has public sentiment in the places that count. If we care about lower bills and security, then the grown-up argument is that accelerating grid capacity, storage efficiency and the clean mix is the sensible way to go, the clean mix that insulates us from gas volatility. That chant is what we should offer to Lancashire. Not drill baby drill, but build wisely, build.